I would like to thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very sad that I cannot be with you today in the beautiful area where you are in right now. I'd like very much to go there and appreciate the beautiful area very much. My name is Stefanie Auer. I'm a professor for dementia studies at the University for Continuing Education in Austria, in Krems in Austria. Just to show you a few pictures where I am currently, and we really have nice weather also for the wine harvest at the moment. It's a wine area, Krems, situated in hills full of fully cultivated with wine. Very worthwhile. Contrasting is our modern campus at the university. So it's a beautiful area. My topic today is to talk about social support, and it is my, I'm really convinced about that people with dementia can have a very good life despite dementia. One condition is that people with dementia do receive social support and social support as early as possible in the course of their disease. This is a definition of social support from Alzheimer Europe, and it defines social support as resources or services to help carers and people with dementia with their practical and social consequences that the disease of dementia holds for them. So it's social, psychological support, social support, but also consists of financial support, for instance, that is necessary to make the life as good as possible for people with dementia. One of the preconditions, I do believe, and I put this at the beginning of my lecture, is that medicine and social services should optimally work together. And I think once we arrived at this stage, the life for people with dementia will be, can be optimized. Social support to any type of communication that targets the issue that people are enabled to feel that they have control over their own situation, so they can do something by themselves. So why do we need the social for brain health and dementia? Why is this topic so important? I had a conversation with Helga Rohrer. She is a dementia activist and very well known in Europe. She has dementia for many years, and she shows, and I have frequently established conversations with her in order to really learn from her what it means to live with this condition. And I asked her to put some issues together for me, why dementia, under which conditions life can be a good one for her. And she said the following: the condition is that society needs to be informed about dementia. What does it mean? And we have to fight stigma. So people should be welcome in the middle of our society. She points out that dementia has different stages, and within these different stages, people do have different needs. So we need to accord our counseling services and social services really to the different needs of people with dementia. She's asking for considering gender differences. There are big differences between men and women when it comes to needs within helping to live with dementia. She asked me also to transport the information that we have to consider, that there's a difference between people that are affected in a much younger age. Helga Rohrer herself, she was affected by dementia. She was hardly 50. So she was a young person affected by dementia, and she has very different needs from a person in her 90s, for instance, as you can imagine. And she is still so active. Recently, she was co-hosting a meeting with me, and it was really a great pleasure to have her on my side to help me to transport all the important information that affect people with dementia. Case management after diagnosis is so important. She was falling into a deep hole after her diagnosis, and she was like, wow, if I would have had any help after receiving the diagnosis, my life would have been so much easier, and I would have come back to on my feet much, much earlier. She's also calling for multidisciplinary collaboration. So doctors, psychologists, therapists, they all should be one team. They all should be talking in one language. We have a problem. We have a very low diagnosis rate. So the social is desperately needed. We have to encourage people to come forward as early as possible, but we have to make the social conditions that it's not a punishment to come forward. It should definitely have a good end for people with dementia to come forward. In Austria, for example, we have a detection rate between 20 and 30%. That is not good, but it's about the average around the globe. And if we consider that today, only 75% of people, 75% of people do not receive a diagnosis today. So it's only the 20 or 30% that do receive a diagnosis. Then we can imagine how big the problem is and how much we need the social in order to draw and encourage people to come forward. Because no diagnosis means no treatment, means no support. So that is a serious issue. And we know today that early diagnosis, and there's a lot of evidence for it, an early diagnosis can prevent crisis, can facilitate disease adjustment. It can make sure that people have early access to treatment and support, and promote early care planning also for caregivers. So it has many, many good sides to an early diagnosis. There's one country that does much better with diagnosing people with dementia early, and to my knowledge, it is Scotland. They had, in 2012, they already had 64% of diagnosed and affected people. And what they do is actually connected to social care. All people diagnosed with dementia do receive a post-diagnostic support. They get a counselor on their side that guides people in this early phase that is so painful for people affected by dementia. They also have, of course, a very invested minister that really, really puts dementia on the foreground agenda of the country. And he also admits that we need research, and that's a central mission really to create a better life for people with dementia. So there has to be a real good commitment, and of course they put another mission in their country, and that's the research strategy. So if we talk about social support and what is hindering early diagnosis, we can immediately say that stigma is on the center why people do not come forward for a diagnosis. Stigma is one of the drivers that is preventing early and timely diagnosis. Timely diagnosis is a different issue. It really involves the individual. And of course, in the future, if we are good at providing a timely diagnosis, we can also be good in risk reduction, which also is an increasing field. And we have a lot of evidence, as you all know, the finger results are very, very promising, and we have to work on this to bring this knowledge within our population. But stigma is promoting from the side of the person affected by dementia, from the person itself. It brings a lot of feelings of shame, hopelessness, and isolation. So people are no longer part of society in this sense. Stigma is really promoting that people feel that they are unable to communicate, and as a consequence, what people do is they reframe from social contact. They withdraw from social contact, and this is definitely also promoting a decline in cognitive performance. Studies on social health do reveal that people that live with dementia feel that they are different. They are something other than one of us. So they feel left out of society. They feel of lesser value. So this is something we definitely have to consider, and we have to do something about. So people with dementia do need social support to gain courage for their new life challenge that is ahead of them. It's not a difficult journey going through dementia. We know this by talking to people with dementia, and they're really talking about these experiences, and they are not fine for most of them. All methods that we apply should enable persons affected by dementia to increase their social health competencies. And what they are especially are that people should feel enabled to influence their social environment still, despite dementia. They are able to be a good member of society if we give them the frame for it. Social health is also a concept that relates having healthy relationships, having the possibility of having relationships, especially during the pandemic crisis. We could see how terrible it is to withdraw relationships from people with dementia. We have seen terrible sequelae of reframing people from healthy relationships, disabling them from relating to other people. Social health connects people with dementia to normalcy. So some examples of social support are providing good and useful information to everybody on all societal levels, emotional support, lifting the spirit, positive life concept, cultivating a positive life concept despite dementia, providing pre- and post-diagnostic support, pre-diagnostic support because we have to encourage people on a societal level to come forward as early as possible, support the self-esteem. That means encouragement, encourage learning, encourage participation in regular societal tasks, offering appropriate services, offering resources. How is it possible to still participate in social activities? Decrease the stress level. That is, of course, one of the big issues when you are affected by dementia. Support the caregiver, support the network, and support the community as well, because we have to create a new form of service that is based on the individual communities. there's a lot of evidence for all these things I'm talking about, all the methods that we can apply. So we can be ready really to start to build this kind of services. And I want to give a few examples of services that we have been able to implement successfully in the different structures. And the first examples relate to awareness building. We have to build awareness on all different societal levels, in all different professional groups as well. And here's an example. We have been working on producing e-learning programs for different professional groups. And as examples here, the police task force in Austria is almost, is trained almost 100%. Now we have 15,000 police officers educated on the issue of dementia. Really police officers became one of the pioneers within Austrian society to promote dementia welcoming methodologies. Our second project is now the Dementia Active Community, where we provide a learning program and a certification process for communities to really promote early on, to encourage people with dementia, people that are concerned about their memory, to come forward, be evaluated in the medical system, but also receive social services and also increasing social contact to fight loneliness and isolation. So far we have 500 learners, and in a few communities that already are considered dementia-friendly communities. Dementia rather competent. What we see if we do research on a community level, how do services for social support of people with dementia, how are they offered within the communities? And what we see is that usually services are fragmented. So it's very difficult for the person with dementia herself and the caregiver to figure out what kind of services do I need to at a certain level in my disease. So knowing this, we created a new structure. It's called the Dementia Service Centers in Austria. It's a one-stop shop where people with dementia themselves and their caregivers can approach on a very community-based level. So it has a very low threshold. It's not like a hospital approach. These centers are usually located in the community themselves. They are staffed by psychologists and social workers and attract people as early enough. So they do prevention work, public relations, education within the community. But you can also have a screening for your cognitive abilities. And what is offered in these dementia service centers is cognitive training for the person with dementia and education for caregivers on a regular basis. People are re-evaluated once a year. So they have a baseline evaluation and are re-evaluated every year. There's a big database where we also do research with it. The state insurance made a pilot trial and quite extensive evaluation of this model. We were considered, so we reached our evaluation goals. Therefore, the rollout of this concept was performed in 2020. So we have 11 dementia service centers at the moment that work non-pharmacologically mainly, but in very, very close cooperation with the medical services of the region. it's one of the prerequisites that such a dementia service center is reachable within 45 minutes, the most for each family. They are flexible and adjust to the needs of the person with dementia and the entire family system. Training groups are organized very close to where the person herself lives and the family lives. We reach about half of the affected person affected within the dementia network. So it's one of the regions in Austria. It's called Upper Austria. It's inhabitants 1.5 million persons. And these 11 dementia service centers are scattered around the county of this region. We published the effects of this model. People that, for example, people that participate in this model have a very, very low likelihood to be admitted to a nursing home. And we can prevent early admission to nursing homes. It's one of the effects of the Dementia Service Center. So I think social health can act as a driver for accessing cognitive reserve. And here I cite the INTERDEM manifesto from 2019 as a hypothesis. And so the most important thing is to really establish and enable people to access social services easily and early in the process of their disease. What the INTERDEM manifesto is suggesting for the future is really to connect the social with the medical. So what is also hypothesized is that if we make sure that people are supported socially early enough, we do believe that we can influence the course of the disease quite potentially. So we shouldn't always think about medications and cure, but also believe in the power of social health. The concept of social health has the potential to bridge the two paradigms, the medical paradigm with the social paradigm. And I think this is the future, or is one potential future route that we can take together to link the two paradigms to find really a fast and better a fast solution for enabling people with dementia to live a better life. It is known in the literature that social factors can influence brain structure and may contribute to brain reserve enhance the plasticity of the brain. And I want to summarize, we have no breakthrough in curative medical research currently. So we have to think about alternatives to provide a better life for people with dementia, and providing social services could be the solution. Social support should be established as early as possible in the course of the disease. In order to reach this goal, we have to make sure that people come forward much earlier than what they do today. We have to increase the medical diagnosis rate dramatically in each country. For this, of course, this has to be also culturally adapted. We should make sure that we do awareness building on all societal levels. And e-learning could be a possibility. It's an economically interesting possibility to train different professional groups in a sustainable fashion. encourage the development of specific social programs, support programs for people with dementia. And of course, we should try to find funds that connect the social factors and the brain pathology during dementia. So this is definitely an area where we could try to work together, the medical field and the social field, to put our brains together and find solutions and also demonstrate what the possibilities of social support is. We have an underinvestment in this area, so we have to make sure that we can change this for the future. And I end, I think if we think about Queen Elizabeth, this was a very good example. She worked until her very last days. She had a great purpose. I think we have to think retirement, give people a good reason to live, not put them at rest during their retirement. I think leading an active life in the middle of society is a good way to stay active and get protected by dementia. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you have some questions for me.